Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, April 30th, 2013. This has been quite the month of revelation regarding our financial system and our media and even our governments around the world, thanks to sources such as WikiLeaks, whistleblowers, and other leaked documents. Even amazing cities and artifacts are revealing themselves in record numbers at this time in our history, all in order to unveil the erroneous belief that we have held as a citizenry across this planet and to remind us of who we really are. One of the individuals I feel who can present a more balanced and galactic point of view on all of these disclosed pieces of information and headlines is Cobra, my Pleiadian friend and passionate emissary for the victory of the light. He and I will be reviewing the current events for April, and I would remind all of you, if you would like to ask him a specific question, please drop me a line. You can drop me an email at webmaster@galacticconnection.com for next month's reviews. So, Cobra, how are you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for coming. It appears that you've been traveling a great deal. I understand you just returned back from Zurich, Switzerland. How did that whole conference go?
Actually, at the beginning of the conference, there was quite much of an opposition from the astral plane, but we made a big breakthrough. We have managed to activate the Zurich vortex. We have been working with Ascended Master Saint Germain with the transformation of the financial system in Zurich. We were working with some of the major banks there, like UBS and some other banks. And as you can see, that work had positive consequences, and it has speed up the process significantly also for other parts of the financial system. And apart from that, we have been very successful in anchoring the goddess presence, the goddess energy, which is very important to keep the balance on the planet so that things don't go out of control.
So now when you say about the balance through the goddess energy, exactly how would we be doing that? How are we contributing to the balance on the planet, and how do we work on our goddess energy?
Actually, goddess energy is, I would say, the pure feminine aspect of the source, and it's present everywhere in the universe. But on this planet, as it became occupied, this aspect of divinity was suppressed and heavily controlled by the archons. And as we begin to invoke that energy, we simply call upon that energy and allow ourselves to become the transmitters of that energy. That energy automatically begins to balance things on the planet. Because the only way the Cabal could control humanity is because of the disbalance between male and female principles. When there is balance, no control or no slavery is possible. So I would just say that you allow yourself to become a channel for that energy, that you become a transmitter for that energy, that you give permission for the divine aspect, for the divine feminine aspect to come through you towards the planet and do what it has to do.
Thank you for that clarification, because people have written about that, and that makes it a lot clearer. Now, you also are going to be throwing an event in Hilo, Hawaii on May 31st, right?
Actually, it will be a 3-day event between May 31st and June the 2nd. That will be led by Isis. I will be just keeping the masculine polarity there. And the purpose of that event is to anchor that energy on the planet after the activation of the portal on the May 25th, because that portal will trigger a huge quantum leap on the planet. And then the new balance will need to be reached, and a new huge amount of that feminine energy will need to be anchored on the planet. And Hawaii, Big Island, is one of the major vortexes for the planet. So I would invite everybody to join us at that event to assist in creating that new state of balance for the planet.
Now that's also interesting, because that's pretty much where the continent was for Lemuria, correct?
Yes, Hawaiian Islands were part of Lemuria continent a long time ago.
And I remember in my research, they stated that the average Lemurian was basically the equivalent to like a 14-year-old young girl in psyche. but very, very advanced in spiritual and, psychic abilities.
It's true, yes.
Okay, so this is very interesting. We're going full circle here, aren't we?
Yeah. We're completing many, many things right now.
So now that leads me to, can you tell us a little bit about how you see the impact of these 3 back-to-back eclipses that we are going through? I know the first one was on April 25th, which we're already kind of still in the midst of, I guess. And then we've got the solar eclipse on May 10th, and then, of course, the portal that you're always referring to on May 25th. How do you see that affecting our planet, as far as the polarities and maybe even the psyche of the people, maybe just the dismantling of all the financial and governmental systems? How do you see that happening?
Actually, all those 3 eclipses are part of the process of activation of the portal. They are preparation and stepping up process in vibration to open the portal on the May 25th. The eclipse that happened last week on Thursday, on April 25th, was the beginning of that process. And it was surprisingly successful for the light. The Cabal wanted, they were planning some rituals, they were planning to prevent the portal from opening, but instead of that, a huge amount of light came on the planet, and certain things happened. I am not allowed to disclose yet, but that were quite necessary as the preparation steps for the event. Certain requirements have been met when that eclipse happened last week. So
that is great.
It's a big history of the light, yes.
That is phenomenal. So are you basically saying that these are kind of like birth pains? I mean, are we kind of like going through contractions, so to speak?
Something like that, yes. Okay. And then we have the eclipse on the 10th of May, or shall we say 9th or 10th of May, depending on time zone. And this is the middle eclipse, which will actually prepare the way for the portal itself, which will be on the May 25th.
So basically the portal is actually the birth itself?
It is, I would say, it is a big quantum leap for the planet. It will be a huge victory of the light, a huge advancement for the light forces on the planet. And after that day, many things will be possible which are not possible now. I am not saying that the event will happen then. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, it will be a huge quantum leap and a huge improvement for the planetary situation from a background perspective.
Oh my gosh. I mean, my heart is leaping. That's only 25 days away. That is so exciting.
Yes, and you can already feel that energy increasing. You can feel the acceleration happening in the last, I would say, week or so.
Yes, definitely. It's definitely mellowed out from March. March was pretty brutal.
Yeah, March was actually a month of intense purification of the archons on the astral and etheric planes. And now, as you can see, there is some progress in that area.
I definitely agree with that. Now, let's jump to a lot of the current events that are going on with the banking system. First of all, you have Britain that's been stripped of their AAA credit rating. And you also have just the huge faux pas of the Cyprus banking scandal. The Russians pulling out, significant amounts of money. In fact, they're saying something like trillions of dollars instead of billions of dollars. And I would want to ask you, how do you see this impacting the rest of the world? There's an awful lot of commentaries really putting the warning out there, get your money out of the bank. There's going to be a run on the banks. And apparently they've even stated that, Italy, Spain, and Portugal have been severely affected by this Cyprus event. So what is your take on that?
Actually, the Cyprus event was a test. Cabal chose a small island, which doesn't have such a big, I would say, official banking structure, just to see if they could get away with stealing money from the people. Wow. And the test run was not successful for them because the people said no. So they tried to go after the upper middle class, because there are not so many people in the upper middle class, and these are the ones who got hit. The major investors in Cyprus were mostly Russian mafia, and they made a deal with the Russian mafia. So those people were able to get the money out. And the cabal has realized that the mass population would not be very happily agreeing with that kind of scenario. But nevertheless, I would suggest everybody to get their money out of the banks right now, immediately, and put some of it into gold and silver. Simply because if you have your money in the cabal's bank, they can use that money for their purposes, and it's not legally yours. You are lending your money to them.
And
it's not your property anymore. So, energetically speaking, you are giving your power away to them if you have your money in their bank.
And Cobra, are you kind of alluding to the fact that if they're going to pull any other major banking scandal, it's going to be between now and the 25th of May, especially?
No. I'm not saying that.
No.
I'm not expecting any drastic changes in the financial system between now and 25th of May.
Okay.
There might be a revelation, there might be scandals coming out, but I'm not expecting a major planetary meltdown at this point. That's not what's going to happen. But what I'm saying is, even if that doesn't happen yet, it is good to have your money in your own hands, to have your own power, and that you are not giving that to the cabal, because your money in the bank is then financing their wars. So this is something that we would like to prevent.
Good point. And also, when you go into gold and silver, folks, you're going into a portable wealth, something you can carry with you at all times. It's liquid.
It's liquid, and it's quite cheap right now.
Yes. So with that said, what is your take on all the changes going on with the pricing of gold, the fact that it had its biggest 2-day drop in 30 years? Who's manipulating the market, do you think?
Of course, the Rothschild-based cabal is manipulating the gold. What they did is they first dumped their paper gold certificates to artificially drop the price. And then when the price dropped, they just bought cheap physical gold as much as they could get. So the money, the gold, everybody's asking, where is that gold going? That gold is going to the cabal banks, especially in Hong Kong.
Especially in Hong Kong. Interesting. So, there was a comment about Rothschild withdrawing from all commodity trading. Is this part of the whole scheme to try to manipulate and trigger certain events in the markets to cash in, or?
It's actually a smokescreen. Actually, the Rothschilds have officially stopped with the gold trades years ago, and now they, so to speak, officially stop with the commodity trading, but in the reality, they are still doing so, but not directly in their own name. They just have some intermediaries that do the trade in their name and for them.
God.
So they just want to be too publicly exposed in their financial transactions.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now, how does George Soros play a role in this? He's been reportedly asking to withdraw very large sums of money from Bill Ackman. I was wondering what you thought about that.
Actually, it's a big relocation of wealth on the planet happening right now. And of course, those at the top know exactly which things will bring profit and which will not bring profit. So they are relocating their assets right now.
Okay. Well, they've definitely been putting the message out to everyone to exit the system. And you're in agreement with that. You're basically suggesting that people pull their money out of the banks, correct?
Oh, yes. It's a very clear signal for quite some time.
Okay.
Actually, the time to exit the system was 5 to 10 years ago when stock market was on its prime. It was a very good time to exit.
That is.
So people who sold their stock at that time and bought gold are now extremely wealthy.
Well, hindsight is always best, isn't it?
Yes, but if you have a little bit of understanding how the system works, it's actually not that difficult to know what to do.
Well, okay, now, what is your opinion of the Federal Reserve Bank? I mean, are they truly bankrupt? Are they completely bust? Is this all a smokescreen as well?
There are a few things with the Federal Reserve. First, they really don't have any gold there. It's true. But they still have some, I would say, imaginary money, monopoly money, fiat money, paper money, however you call it. And they can, of course, print more.
Okay. Of course, because they're printing the hell out of the money.
Yeah, this is something that they can still do at a certain point, at a certain degree.
It's too bad we can't get them to stop that. Then the system would definitely come down since it depends on being in debt, you know?
Yes.
So, okay, now there was an interesting comment in one of Fulford's reports, and it was talking about Shintaro Ishihara, and he made the comment that they weren't sure of the people such as Hillary Clinton and Henry Kissinger had lost power. They weren't sure who was in charge now. What do you think about that?
Exactly. This is true because the real leader of the Cabal has been removed from the planet last year on May 5th. And since then, they don't have the real leader, and they are actually quite confused from whom to take orders because they are used to taking orders. So they now have to somehow get a consensus, and of course they cannot get a consensus. That's one of the reasons why the Cabal is making all those uncoordinated, seemingly contradictory actions.
You know, I just had something pop in my head, Cobra. You know how they've always said that there were 13 families running the planet?
Yes, I know that story, yes.
Okay. Do you, A, agree, and B, do you feel that those 13 families are actually representations of the Archons themselves?
No, actually, those certain families are just one of the factions.
Okay.
I would not go into much detail here because it's not important, but they are not, those famous certain Illuminati families are not at the top.
Okay. Okay. And I mean, are those at the top, are they basically off-world?
Yes, of course, all the families who really have something to say on this planet are not from this planet.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, well, you know, the next thing I want to move over to is the oil spill. You know, we have hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil leaking into central Arkansas and Mayflower, Arkansas. And I was wondering, you had mentioned something about there's going to be a possible intervention. Could you talk to me a little bit more about that?
I can just say that there are forces of light. I would say the resistance movement and some other forces who are aware of the situation, and the situation will be contained and taken care of. Of course, they cannot completely intervene on the surface yet, but they will be able to contain the damage to the point that it will not be a major, I would not say, it will not be a major disaster.
Good, good. Thank you. Okay, and then the other thing that's really been big is the environmental scientists. I guess there were just a slew of them, maybe 10, 20 of them, came out and they broke silence and they talked about the chemtrails and what the chemtrails actually include, which are these nanoworms. And I thought it was really interesting, Cobra, because I ran across an amateur photographer who was taking pictures of chemtrails. And actually, he was taking pictures of UFOs, and he happened to notice that the UFOs were hanging out around the chemtrails. And I was wondering what you thought. Are they neutralizing the malevolent effects of the chemtrails, do you think?
Exactly. They are just neutralizing the chemtrails.
That is so great.
And without those UFOs, without those positive interventions, there will be much, much, much more of those things happening.
That's really
good. And again, they can not yet annihilate all of them, but they are able to clear the majority of them at this point.
Well, and it's just a really good feeling for people to know, because we look up in the sky and some days it's just completely paste white, you know?
Yes, I know.
Just ridiculous.
I'm aware of the situation, but you see, if there would be no interventions of the light forces on the planet, humanity would not exist right now.
True. So moving on to politics, one of the hugest media headlines has been the Boston bombing. And in my opinion, it's just been such an absolute house of cards. I can't get over how sloppy it is. They've been busted about fake injuries. There's 5 private military contractors that have all been busted carrying the actual backpacks that were associated with the bombs. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So what's your feeling about the Boston bombing? Why was it such a sloppy job, and why then?
Okay, I would say that the Cabal is quite desperate because they are trying to maintain the vibration of the fear on the planet with those false flag events. And of course, they are not very intelligent, they are not very good planners, so they make big mistakes. But actually, at the beginning, they were seemingly getting their goal because people were getting afraid, people were worried, people were obsessed with this whole thing. But then, finally, in a week or two after the event itself, people began to investigate and look deeper, and now it is the same pattern as with 9/11. People are beginning to awaken because of this.
Yeah, I noticed that. And I also noticed a lot more participation online, people really being skeptical and analytical about the media's headlines, their pictures, their articles. People are really kind of tearing stuff apart, you know?
Yes, very good. Exactly.
And this is exactly what we want. So I couldn't believe it. I mean, even the police department, the head of the police department actually slipped and called some of the people involved actors. Did you hear that?
Yes, yes.
Just,
Because some of them were actors, so it's very easy. I mean, the truth cannot be suppressed any longer.
I still can't get over it. Anyway, now I think, I'm not sure who this came from. It said, we need to realize the sabotage of the operation means very powerful groups within the intelligence military community are now fighting against the cabal by sabotaging their psych op events like Sandy Hook and Boston. Was that from you?
No, no.
Okay. I was wondering what you thought. That this is just a classic strategy to pull people away from what's going on possibly overseas in the Mideast. Do you agree with that?
It was diversion tactics to divert people into drama again, away from the real issues. And it worked, as I said, it worked for a week or two, but now it's not working any longer. And it did backfire on the cabal. So they did not get their objective done. But they're keep repeating the same mistakes. Now they want to trigger a world war through Syria, and of course this will not work.
Yeah, you had mentioned in one of your postings about how they were meeting at a close location to the Bush Ranch in Texas. Did
Yes,
you get any
yes.
kind of intel on what what was the outcome of that meeting?
Actually, they met exactly at the lunar eclipse, and they were wanting to. They had big plans of what they will do with that portal, and of course, it didn't work their way. And the only conclusion they got is they want to go down spectacularly. They want to create a war when they are defeated, and this is what the decision was to trigger the next world war through Syria, and they focused completely on that. And you can see in the last few days there is an escalation of the events there. This is their planning. This is the result of their decisions last Thursday. And of course, it will not work as they have planned.
They've been really targeting Syria a great deal, Cobra. Is there more to this than meets the eye as far as, is it because of, minerals or stargates or, I mean, what?
It's portals, yes. Vortexes, portals. Syria is, there are certain areas I would not like to mention in Syria, but there are some very important vortexes of goddess energy there. Some of them are almost 10,000 years old. And of course, they want to control those portals.
Wow.
And Syria is also one of the most important trigger points for the geopolitical stability in the Near East. And the people that control Syria can actually influence a lot the geopolitical stability of that area. So this is the reason why the Kabbalah is now so focused on that.
Interesting. Have they pretty much run out of options? I mean, is this pretty
exactly
really?
Exactly.
Well, that's
they tried to trigger World War III through Israel and Afghanistan, and it didn't work. Now they're trying through Syria. This is their, I would say, secondary option. They're trying to do that one.
Well, that's good.
And I will say the resistance movement will not allow another World War III to happen. Another World War is not an option.
Oh, now did
that will not be tolerated.
Did you guys all hear that? That's great news. We all have to keep sending that message out to the world,
Yes.
No more war.
No more world war. There is already a conflict in Syria, but it will not expand much further. It will not be allowed. It will not be tolerated.
Good. Because they've really taken the brunt end of some stuff over there.
Yes, it's true.
So now what is your idea about this, the poison ricin letter that arrived for Obama and several of the other cabinet officials?
Actually, everyday letters like this are sent to many of the high-level politicians, and most of them are intercepted by Secret Service, and nobody knows about it. It's an everyday occurrence.
Well, now, you had mentioned before when we were talking last that there are factions within the White House. I mean, how many factions do you think are really going on, and, who's vying for the power hold here?
You see, there is, of course, the so-called White Knights, the positive faction that is working quite much undercover, and also within the cabal, there are a few factions that want to. They are fighting for power, and it's quite a complicated situation. And most of the people that are involved don't really know who is who and on which side is who. So it's quite a complicated situation at this point.
I remember meeting somebody a long time ago, and he said one of the other reasons it's so difficult to know who's on what side is because there was a lot of cloning. Do you agree with that?
There was a lot of cloning, but that was cleared a long time ago.
Okay. That's right. I remember you talking about that. So now, how do you feel that this whole Cyprus money grab is affecting the EU? Do you find that, how do you feel as far as, what their fate is, and especially regarding the German stance? Everybody kind of looks to Germany to see if they're going to finally falter, because they're like...
Not yet. The situation is still quite stable. The Eurozone has absorbed the Cyprus shock quite well, and at this point, I don't see any big disturbances or big changes happening yet.
Okay. I was hoping you'd say something different.
Well, things will happen at the right time in the right way, but we're not there yet.
Now, the announcement of the 180-nation BRICS alliance went down last week or the week before, and they were saying that they were going to start a new development bank to replace the IMF and the World Bank. And this was supposed to be a signal, to show the cabal and the mafia that they weren't going to work anymore with the NATO-controlled states. What do you know about that? What do you feel are the implications to that, the 180 BRICS alliance? Is this the...
Yes, actually, there is some development in that area, especially through Asia, and this alliance is now expanding. Also, Syria wants now to join officially that alliance. So it's a very good thing. But the cabal is already preparing countermeasures. One of the latest developments was that they wanted to bribe Putin and get him on their side.
That's interesting. I saw today, Cobra, did you see the article on Japan and Russia are bearing the past from World War II?
Yes.
So what do you think is behind that whole thing? Or is that also part of this BRICS alliance?
It's part of this process, yes.
Okay. So basically there's just a whole lot of changes regarding which continents, which countries are aligning with which.
It's a general trend that all non-Rothschild controlled countries, I would say everybody except from the Western world is aligning in the Eastern Bloc or so-called BRICS.
Wow. Now, is it true that the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers are still kind of at war with one another, or is that...
They will always be at a war. They are not friends. They are just... they have the common goal, and that's all about it, and everything rests their enemies.
Interesting. So I don't know if you saw this, but apparently Goldman Sachs, Lloyd Blankfein, JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, and Joseph Ackerman have all been sentenced to be prosecuted for their actions. And I'm just wondering, what do you think are the implications of that? I mean, it's a good thing that it's going down, but are we really going to see any effects in the financial arena because of it?
Well, if this really happens, this is a promise at the moment. If this really happens, this will have long-lasting implications. So let's see what happens in the next few weeks.
Okay. And then you had also mentioned in one of your postings about the resistance movement removing most of the physical gold out of the hands of the cabal in 2012. And you said that they were hiding a few $1 trillion in Liechtenstein. Is there any way to be able to shut that down? I mean,
Yeah, but that's not gold. It's paper assets. This is not gold.
So is the strategy more just to watch them bury themselves?
The strategy is to expose them, to expose their offshore account, to expose where their money is, and it will just unravel. One lead will lead to another, and the whole structure will be one day in the light of the day. And we're close to that.
Cool. Very cool. So a lot of people wanted to know what your opinion was about Bitcoin. It's been pretty controversial, and there were some radical price swaying, and it dropped very significantly, and now they're citing that it might go up 360% rise in the price.
Bitcoin is a very interesting currency because it gives you anonymity. All the transactions are, I would say, the safest and most anonymous transactions of all the currencies. And this is why the cabal wanted to crash the Bitcoin. And this is why they manipulated the stock price down. And now we'll see how high can it rise again. And my prediction is it can recover. It can recover because it has some real value. It gives something to people that they cannot get anywhere else. It is quite complicated to use, but it's very safe.
Now, it's really makes sense, Cobra, because if everything is basically just the flip of a switch on a computer, because there's so many articles out there about how everything is rigged digitally.
Yes.
How is Bitcoin going to not fall into that category?
Because it's not controlled by the cabal. The very way it is structured gives you safety and anonymity. The idea itself is structured in a way that is quite safe against a possibility of misuse. Of course, it's not 100% safe, but it's much better than the current banking system.
Okay, because just because of the fact that it's a digital currency, that's what a lot of people are kind of nervous about.
Well, even the new financial system, we will still need a digital transmission of money because you are not going to carry your earnings from one city to another in your backpack, I suppose.
That's true. That's definitely true. So now, I'm sure you heard about West Texas and the fertilizer plant explosion.
Yes.
And they have now uncovered that there were some missiles involved with that. Have you heard any intel on that? And if so, can you share anything?
Well, this is just another false flag event to bring more fear into the population.
Okay.
There are, of course, speculations about the reasons, but I would not completely agree with most of those speculations.
Interesting. And I thought it was interesting the location in which they chose it. I think it was Fulford that said something about how somebody had given a warning about 3 or 4 different presidents. And
yes, but I would disregard most of those warnings because it's true that much more of those events are planned than are actually manifested. And actually, I would estimate about 85% of those are prevented by the positive actions inside of the intelligence community.
That is incredible. My God.
There are many good guys in there that prevent most of those things from happening, and nobody even hears about it because it was prevented before it happened.
I mean, that's exactly why I'm motivated to do these calls with you, is people need to hear this,
Yes, it's true.
It's really great. Okay, what is your idea about Prince Edward? Did he have a stroke?
Again, this health conditions of many of people in high places are sometimes very suspicious.
Yeah, this one's very suspicious. He's pretty young too.
Yes.
And did Margaret Thatcher die naturally?
My sources say yes.
Okay. Nothing nefarious.
Nothing nefarious. She was just old enough to die.
Okay. And I wanted everyone to know that there is a list of over 1,400 elite resignations, mass arrests, and retirements. And if you go to something that describes me and my articles.blogspot.com, you can gain access to that list because people have asked for that.
And maybe you can put a link to this on your website so people can read the list. It's an impressive list, and most of that are resignations. There are not that many arrests, but many people are resigning since, I would say, the beginning of last year.
That's what I was going to ask you too, Cobra. It's like, what happens? I mean, do galactic beings show up at their front door and say, "Hey, bud,
No. It's simply that the ship is sinking and the Reds are escaping. It's psychologically natural process when people begin to realize the game is over. Those who are smart enough, they quit.
It's just such a massive number, it blows me away.
Because the massive numbers of people are involved in this.
That's true. That's true. Well, on a good note, Julian Assange is starting a new political party, and he's looking for people to sign up. And the other great thing is, I don't know if you heard about the New Hampshire House Bill 638.
Yes, a little bit, yes.
I was wondering what you thought about that. I thought this was very interesting to me because it involves the 13th Amendment, and it also involves the title of nobility. And if people are not aware that if you're a lawyer and you get a BAR, you pass the bar, you're basically passing the British Accreditation Regency. So I was wondering what you thought about that.
Actually, the original purpose of the 13th Amendment was to liberate the United States from the Jesuit control, because Jesuits control the City of London from Vatican, and through the City of London, they control the Corporation of the United States. So the 13th Amendment is actually an instrument to cut away that control.
Well, there's some intel flying around that the IRS and the corporate United States of America are officially no longer as of April 15th.
I would not agree with that because they're still operating in reality.
Okay. I was just wondering, maybe it's on paper, or maybe it's what's being done behind the scenes, as you said.
Behind the scenes, all that corporation was never legal. It was never a legal entity.
This is true. And then, I'm sure you remember when Obama first came into office, he was really big about Guantanamo Bay. And there is so much controversy around these prisoners that are being force-fed so that they don't starve to death. They're actually going on deliberate hunger strikes. I was wondering what you thought. What are the implications of that? I mean, is it really just more to bring attention to the fact that we torture a lot of people, or, what is going on in Guantanamo Bay? I hear that there's a underground base, but then I hear from you that those are all shut down.
There's no underground. There was no underground base down there, but it was shut down, and that place should be closed as soon as possible. And those people should be treated as human beings.
Yeah, more humanely.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because I guess some pretty horrific things went on there.
Exactly, and that has to stop immediately.
So that would be probably the main purpose from looking at it from a galactic perspective, is just to get the torture and the political imprisonment and that sort of thing to stop worldwide.
Actually, at the event, one of the first things that will be done, all those places will be shut down, and all those people will get medical attention and psychological support.
That's awesome. Good. Okay, and then I'm not sure if you heard about the IAPCAR. It's the International Association of Protection of Civilian Arm Rights. They're gathering together. They have 24 organizations that are really working hard to inform the public about self-defense and gun ownership. So that's really getting some impetus. And
it's a natural response of people, because when they are oppressed, they want to self-organize and stand up for their rights.
Well, the cabal are really, they're really, really showing their paranoia, because they're taking down all these veterans. You've heard about these stories where they're,
Yes.
coming to their front doors and taking away all their guns and throwing them in jail. And
yes, it's more like it's instilling fear in people. That's their tactic at the moment.
Yes. Oh, geez.
That will not last much longer. Changes are on horizon, so all this will change.
Yes. Now, I think you said the secret sacred societies of your world have entered into new alliances, or that was probably Fulford. And
I think this was coming from Sheldon Idle.
Sheldon Idle. Okay. So who do you think the secret sacred societies are, and what alliances do you think are actually forming at this point?
I would say that there is a good faction of the Templars, and that good faction of the Templars was fighting against the Cabal through all those centuries, and now they are reaching out to some other groups. And there are some, I would say, negotiations taking place right now that are a little bit more successful than the negotiations that are taking place last year among the positive light forces on the surface of the planet. So there's a little bit more consensus right now, which is good.
Yeah.
Not enough, but more.
I tell you what, we've really come a long way since last year when I interviewed you.
Oh, yes. Its situation now is much better. The plan is much more solid. We have much more solid foundation, and we are actually closer to the event.
That's awesome. So, what do you feel about this whole thing with the Vatican? The ITCCS, they've been bringing these liens forward against the Vatican property, and they've been, banishing them from their communities. There's even bishops that are refusing to fund the Vatican. So it's stirring up a lot of stuff. What do you think is the positive implication to all of this, and how is the resistance able to bring these guys to their knees? Because they are the be-all, end-all, most powerful out there, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're losing their power daily. This ITCC organization is actually doing a very good job because people are becoming aware of the situation. This is number one. And number two, those liens are actually helping legally in the action that will be taken at the time of the event.
Ah, really?
Yes. Okay. It's a good thing to have a little bit more of the background for the actions when the time is right.
That's really good. Okay, and what do you think of this new pope? I mean, are you impressed with some of the different things that are going on with him? Apparently, he's been blowing people away with some of the things he's been saying.
I'm not impressed. I'm neutral at this point. He has some good, I would say he has some good aspects of himself and some not so good aspects of himself. He had some quite high position in the Jesuit organization years ago, and but I will not say that he's completely cabal controlled. So I'm having a neutral position to him at the moment.
Okay, and you still feel he is not a walk-in, correct?
Pardon?
You still agree that he is not a walk-in?
No, he's definitely not a walk-in.
Okay, because that's still flying around.
And he's not a saint either, so...
He's not a saint. I don't know. The Catholics might disagree with you, Cobra.
I know, but I'm just giving my observation of the facts.
I'm laughing because I was brought up Catholic. So, anyway, okay. So the other good thing that's going on is a federal judge ruled that the Obama administration had violated the laws issuing oil leases in Monterey County. And I could just see this setting some really good precedents. How do you see the changes going away from fossil fuels on this planet?
Well, this is just preparation for the real changes, but because the real changes will happen when the free energy devices will be massively distributed to humanity. It will be a breakthrough.
And that's going to
be the real change. And all that, what's happening right now, is just preparation for that.
So basically, we're just kind of getting all the people set on stage, ready to do their performance.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and then there's there's like a lot of movement with local law enforcement and local military regarding the Second Amendment. And that's going down in 38 different chapters of different states. So there's a lot of momentum there. I kind of wanted to know, what do you feel the rest of the world is perceiving when they hear all about the United States and we're so obsessed with the Second Amendment and having our own, ability to defend ourselves? How do they see this?
I would see it's like a double-edged sword. You can see this as a right to defend yourself, or you can see this as overstressing the violent aspect of human nature. So it depends how you choose to see those things. But in a situation like this, I would say people have a right to defend themselves, but they have to do it in a way that is aligned with their higher purpose and their soul and their consciousness.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and then how about the whole leaked documents thing? Oh my God. On April 15th, the Kissinger cables were released, 1.7 million records, 380 gigabytes of information. I mean, wow. I was blown away when I dove into this. In fact, everybody, if you want to go to search.wikileaks.org/PLUSD, you can access this database. They've created it into a searchable database that you can dive into and look for all kinds of juicy information about our Kissinger years. It's primarily looking into the secret White House policies throughout the 70s.
It would be good if somebody would go to that database and find the best pieces and make them public, because it's simply too big for average person to go through and read all that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, Cobra, what I read here that almost a quarter century after Soviet troops left Afghanistan in defeat, Russia may return to the country by establishing maintenance bases in Afghanistan. Why does everybody keep going back there?
Again, this is one of the key points for the planet, one of the vortex points, and of course everybody wants to control that place.
I mean, aren't these troops, I think I had read, aren't these troops well aware of what's going on?
No, just the people on top are aware, but people who are marching there have no idea where they're going and why they're going there.
I mean, I just find that really hard to believe. I can't believe they'd be that oblivious to what's going on.
Most people are like that. You see, they are brainwashed by the media, by their educational system, and when they're 18 or 19 and go into the army and they just follow orders.
Yeah. Well, and then my last question to you is, I just thought this was absolutely fascinating that they've uncovered an administrative center of from 4,000 years ago. I was wondering, how does that tie in with today?
Actually, the same people who are now controlling the planet were controlling the planet through Sumeria 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, and was the control center at that time.
So once again, we're completing another cycle.
Yes, exactly.
That is fascinating. Fascinating. And then, one last thing. I read that it says, what will emerge is a new physically unified Gaia, not unlike the one of 13 millennia ago. She will then be capable of restoring not only her own reunified spirit, but also that of her entire multidimensional solar system. Her rehabilitation will enable her solar system to return to the state of unity that existed prior to being sent asunder by the perfidy of dark some 13 millennia ago.
Yes, we're approaching the moment of the final liberation, and this is the end of darkness, not just for this planet, but for the whole galaxy. And when this planet is liberated, it will be a huge quantum leap for the whole galaxy, and many beings are watching and observing this planet right now and assisting with their energy in that final liberation process.
And how many civilizations do you really think are watching us, Cobra?
Millions and millions.
Wow.
If not billions.
Okay. Wow. So it is that many.
Yes.
Well, okay. I just want to remind everybody that the citizen hearing on disclosure is going down from April 29th to May 3rd. So please support that. Make sure you follow. That's 30 hours of testimony about UFO and disclosure. This is so important for us to get this disclosed. Cobra, did you have any comments on that?
Mm-hmm. It is a part of preparation for the real disclosure, and it's a good thing. So yes, it's one of the more important events in this time frame right now.
And last but not least, what did you think about the flyover in Arizona? Did you hear about that? It's right around the Ashtar Command area.
I didn't hear about it. When did it happen?
It happened about, I believe it was about 5 days ago. And there were 17 ships, and they were very, very visible. There were over 100 people witnessed it. And supposedly there's some sort of Hopi prophecy that's claiming that that's the area where ships will arrive, and they'll arrive in larger numbers and so on and so forth.
Actually, central Arizona is one of the major vortex points for the Galactic Confederation and the Ashtar Command. So at the time of the first contact and after the first contact, this will be one of the most concentrated area for the light ships to appear.
Wow. So we should all just go and hang out in the desert, right?
If you want to see a UFO, that's a good place to go in Arizona, yes.
No kidding. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and tie this up today. And I want to thank Cobra, as always, for being such a great lighthouse of information. And Cobra, did you have any final comments that you wanted to make before we go?
Yes, first I would like to ask, when is this going to be published? Is it going to be published before tomorrow?
We're going to try to pull it out.
So yes, I would like to ask everybody to do a weekly meditation on the 1st of May, because this is one of the key dates of the year, and as much light as possible is needed on that day, and this can determine many things for the course of events in the next few weeks. So I really ask everybody to join us and assist in this effort. And then I would like to invite everybody, of course, to our conference in Laguna Beach, where we will open the portal on the May 25th, and then the next week after that, we go to Hawaii. So everybody welcome there also.
Okay, yes, and you'll see me, and you'll see Rob Potter, and we'll all be there with smiles on our faces. Okay, so if you have any other questions, please feel free to visit my website at galacticconnection.com. And if you find any value in these interviews, please feel free to donate to my site. I would appreciate it. Okay, well, everybody have a great May, and we will be talking to Cobra at the end of May. Boy, I think people are going to be hanging on to hear you at the end of May.
Many things will happen in the month of May. It will be very interesting, and I think I will have much more good news at the end of the next month.
I know. I can't wait, and I'm sure everybody else feels the same. So thank you, Cobra, for your dedication. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will catch you here next month. Take care and have a great rest of your day.